Hello, everybody, and welcome to another night here with me, Peter Driver, in Biscari Fly. It's the run into Christmas. I hope everybody's keeping well. The weather's very festive out there at the moment, and it's been a great week here in Biscari Fly. We had a great week here with the kids and stuff, and having a bit of fun, getting everything set up for the Christmas. I hope everyone's keeping well, and everyone's enjoying their weekend so far. How you doing to Liam Long is on there with us, Patrick Smith, Ken Tuberty, Dylan is on there. Happy birthday, Dylan. Dylan Roberts is on there, 35 this year. Well done, Dylan. Congratulations. Met Dylan last week at the Hannick Festival. I'll talk about that in a moment. But Kieran Sherlock, Mike McGovern's on there from New York. Good to be back, Mike. Good to be back. Kevin Matter's on there with us. Who else is on? Kane, Patrick Smith, Liam Long, Brendan Splan, Declan Noonan, Simon. How you doing, Simon? Got a great show lined up for you tonight, Simon. Nigel Haynes from Wales. How you doing, Nigel? Mark Joyce, Graham Lonigan's on there. Good to have you back on, Graham. Aidan Gill, David Donovan is going to be along with our trivia, of course, again tonight, folks. We got some nice prizes to give out. Ken Woodward, all the way from Mexico. Ken is, we met Ken up in British Columbia a couple of years back, and I was watching few of your posts there, Ken, from Mexico. It sounds like an awesome trip down there. John Johnston is on with us there. Martin O'Rourke. James Hope, how you doing, James? Hope everybody's keeping well. Eugene Fagan, how you doing? Amanda Boyd. Robbie Berry's on with us as well. Jared Lenhan. Hope everybody's keeping well. Hope everyone's starting to get into that festive spirit. We kind of got into the festive spirit a bit today, as you might have seen on Facebook. I got a few notes here. I'm going to read them out. Two massive giveaways on Biscari Fly at the moment over on our Facebook pages. We have a fly tying fly fishing hamper, well over €250 to give away. All you got to do is like, share and tag two buddies. That draw will take place on the 23rd of December for that. So if you haven't already liked and shared that post, do get over there, like, share and tag two buddies. Don't forget those 3 rules, and you'll be in to win that. There's a massive amount of stuff in it, and you wouldn't know. We might even throw an extra bit of stuff in it for you, because these are so good. Also on Biscari Sea and Game, our other page, most of you will know, we started Biscari Sea and Game this year, getting in some spinning gear and some bass gear and stuff like that. We have another massive hamper going out there as well at the same time, so there is 2 hampers on the go. Both are well over €250, worth winning. Both draws will be done at 9 p.m. on Saturday, or not Saturday, 9 p.m. on the 23rd of December. We will do both draws live. So head over there over the next while. And man, Nigel, how you doing? Desmond Paul, Brendan Splan's on there as well. Desmond Paul, to have Grevin. Nigel Haynes there. It's better than watching the football. You're not watching the football, Nigel, no? I agree, Nigel. I agree. So do head over to our Facebook page, folks. We got 2 massive giveaways there. Also, we're starting to build towards our Christmas special. I'm not going to release the date tonight, but it will be released during the week. Our Christmas special will take place between Christmas and New Year's Eve. At some stage over that week, we will do a Christmas special. We always do it. Here at Biscari, it means so much to us how much you guys support us, guys and girls. So we always love to give something back at this time of the year. So, that's why we do the hampers and stuff like that, to give something back to everybody. And it's Christmas special. We have some massive giveaways as well, okay? We got membership to Mount Juliet for the entire year to give away. I'd say the Christmas pot already has gone well over €500-600 of gear we're going to be giving away over the night. So do watch out for that Christmas special. It's going to be a fantastic night. So heading down to the night show, folks, is all about mergers. We also have Dave along. Mentioned Dave earlier on there. Dave Donovan is going to be along with his trivia. We got a nice spot prize there, a lot of fly boxes and stuff that you can fill up over the Christmas period there for yourselves before the new season starts. Peter Wadding is going to be along with a casting clinic, and we got the one and only Mr. George McGrath. He's after turning back the clock about 20 years by cutting off the beard. But look, we've Mr. George McGrath, the one and only, fantastic man, absolutely fantastic flight there. He's with his most deadliest dry flight tonight, folks. You don't want to miss that one. That's coming along later on in the show. Don't miss it. But before we start into time, we're going to have a look. So tonight's all about mergers, okay? And I got a lot of clicking to do tonight, folks. I've been working hard on this show all day, getting photographs and stuff ready for you and things like this to get this real understanding about mergers. Now, we fish mergers all the time when we're fly fishing, okay? A wet fly can be an emerger. Clinkhammers are emergers. All that kind of stuff. But to have a real good understanding of emergers, you've got to have a concept of where that fly is sitting in the water column. Okay, so emergers, to imitate the larvae or pupae molten, when that larvae pupae molts into the next stage of its life cycle. Okay, see in the picture there, okay, that fly is stuck in the surface film. It is shredding its shuck, and it's maturing into an adult fly. Okay, this is the most vulnerable part of that fish's or that fly's life cycle, and when the trout really hone in on. Okay, there's also a stages there where kind of when the emerger has misformed wings, and we call this crippled emergers. Okay, so some don't make the transition there. The wings don't form properly, or they don't make the transition, and this is a real it's a honey hole for the trout. Okay, so looking at emerger fishing and all that kind of stuff, it's really important when you're going in. When we use them, so we use them at times. There can be often 2 or 3 hatches in springtime or heading into the summer or whatever it may be, and you'll see trout rising, and you're fishing dry flies, and you're just not getting the fish. You're getting a few splashes out here and there. It can often be the case that the trout are on the emergers. Okay, they're targeting those crippled emergers, targeting those emergers that do not make the transition to adult dry fly, and that's when we really got to tie the patterns that we're going to be tying now in a moment. Okay, so even though we tie clinks all the time, and clinks do represent that stage, but the ones that I'm tying tonight are specifically to target those crippled emergers. Absolutely, Aidan Gill. Yeah, you do see a lot of them when they're on the rivers. Those crippled emergers. This is lake and river, folks, as well. This is not just only. It's not just only 2-1 France. Good man, Martin Kenny. So it's not only rivers. This is lakes fishing also, and these patterns that I'm tying tonight work really well on lakes as well as they do rivers. Now, often when I'm fishing emergers, I will fish a double fly. Okay, so not too often I'll fish double fly when I'm doing dry flies or fish on flies on the surface, but when I'm on emergers, and you'll see why when we start tying and start talking about the patterns. They sit very low in the water column. They can be very difficult to see. I'd often fish a dry fly and a dropper, quite a distinctive dry fly and a dropper, so I can see it, and then I'd have maybe 2 foot to 2.5 foot to my emerger, and I'm watching that kind of space behind the dry fly. Any movement or any disturbance in the water, I will strike. Okay, because you need those flies sitting low down to the water. So they can be really, really effective, and it's something really to watch out for when we're dry fly fishing. So just clicking back here again. So we're going to start into a fly, but just before I do, I want to say hi to all our YouTubers for starters. Hi everybody. Hope everybody's keeping well. This show will be up on YouTube tomorrow, and I hope everybody's keeping well. Good to have you on there with us, Aidan Gill. No, James, you can't use Raffia for a hackle post. It ain't going to work. How you doing, Luca? Luca's on with us there. Martin Kenny, Brian Cantony, Simon Tufsar. Hope they're absolutely, yes, Simon, perfect. Emergers are lethal and they're easy picking for trout, okay? But we've got to really hone in on the way we tie our flies. As you see, the way that picture I put on the water, the way it's in the water, we got to make sure we represent that, and you're going to see how we do that tonight. We got some extra pictures coming up there along the way. But anyway, hi to all the YouTubers. Don't forget, folks, if you need any Christmas presents this year, or you want to give any hints to the wife, or the girlfriends, or the brothers or sisters, or anybody else at all, do check out www.scaryfly.com, or give us a bell. With lots of people ringing in there during the week looking for different kinds of presents and stuff like that. And just before we go, we'll talk just a moment about the Hannock competition. So we're in Wales last weekend. We weren't fishing. We weren't tying flies last Saturday night because I was over in the Welsh Dee, the Hand Hotel, and we managed 6th. We were happy enough with it. The draw we got, the way things worked out for us, it was, there was chances we could have done better, but we weren't really happy coming home. 6th place in a competition of that level is a fantastic achievement, and we're really happy coming home. But huge congratulations to Which or Not, Adam Stafford and the boys who won the competition. Fantastic achievement to win that competition. It's not easy one, let me tell you, but a fantastic result for the guys. Well done, Adam and his team. Which or Not from the UK. Mark Driver and Roger Fowler and Darius Simkis were silver medalists on the day. Another great, fantastic achievement to be silver medalists. They weren't far off the first place, but they settled for second, and fantastic. Congratulations, lads. Well done. And of course, another Irish team got the bronze medal, and that was Tom O'Connor, John Willis and Robert Hackett got the bronze medal over on the Welsh Dee. Fantastic result, lads. The lads were delighted coming home. And Robert Hackett, one of our juniors that have just made a transition to seniors, he took top individual with 27 or 24. It was 24, yeah. 24 Grayling caught over the weekend, so fantastic. It was an up and down weekend, nice weather. lucky it wasn't this weekend, it would be a lot colder. But hiya, Danny Cullen. Hope you're keeping well. Michael Callaghan's on there. Trevor Melvin. Hope you're doing. But or Trevor Green. Sorry, Trevor. Is on there with us as well. So great weekend in Wales last weekend. Good to be back home. Good to be back at home. Settling down for the Christmas period now. Getting everything ready for the Christmas for the kids and the shop. So yeah, great times ahead. Looking forward to the next couple of weeks. I always like this time of the year. Things start to wind down a bit. For Deirdre and the job, and the kids start getting very excited, and the house gets all in a tumble, and yeah, great time of the year. But anyway, folks, we're here for a bit of flight time. You don't want to hear me babbling on about family too much. We're here for a bit of flight time. Don't forget, folks, if you share the stream, you will be in to win tonight's flies, and I did practice quite a few flies earlier on because I was photographing them in water and stuff like that. That's all coming up along because we want to recreate that image that we saw earlier on. Okay, so we're going to start off with a nice little pattern. Now, let me just say something before I start tying. My emergers aren't the prettiest emergers in the world. Okay, I got one. I'd say, geez, I can't do all three. I've got quite a few patterns that are good emergers, but I wouldn't say they're ugly flies, but they're not very attractive. Okay, but man, do they work. Okay, right? So there's a big difference between tying attractive flies and actually flies that work. So I could sit here tonight and tie you all a whole lot of pretty flies, look beautiful, say, wow, what an amazing fly, beautiful looking, and they mightn't catch as many fish as some of these ones will. Okay, I always have been true to myself as regards tying the patterns that do work, and tonight I'm going to tell you the 3 patterns that do work. One of them is fairly pretty, the other 2, they mightn't look so pretty, but they are super effective, and they've got really good technique to them. Okay, so in the vise here, I've just put a size 14 Klinkhammer style hook. This is Biscari Fly Klinkhammer hook I'm tying on. Okay, nice curvature to the back of that hook. Okay, coming up into the eye, and I'm going to start off by adding in a little bit of Kevlar up there near the head of the fly, the head of the hook, should I say. Okay, get my scissors. Absolutely, John Johnson. Rough flies for fish eyes. Totally agree with you. Hey, Wayne Murphy's on with us there. Good to have you on, Wayne. So get my thread on there for a moment, and we're going to put a little cocktail on tail in there. Now, when you're tying in your tails, don't forget the general profile of emergers. Everything below the thorax must be skinny, must penetrate the water column. Okay, must penetrate. When you put that out there, it has to be able to penetrate. Okay, in order for it to sit down exactly like the picture, and you'll see that in a moment once we tie this fly, and I'll show you the pictures of these flies all sitting in water. Okay. Now, when I'm tying emergers, I go at least 1.5 times the shank of the hook. Okay, so as you can see, is that fly there. I've only got 3 strands, possibly 4. In that tail. That's all I want. I don't want no more. I don't want big bulky tails. I want nice slim tails because everyone's got to be slim right up to the thorax of this fly. Okay, so 1.5 times. So I'm going to extend that out quite a bit. The camera's even going to pick up on the full length of that. But you can see I extended that because I want that whole tail to hang down into the water. Okay. Just turn back a couple of turns. Don't tie it the whole way down right now at the moment. Absolutely, Kieran. Yes. And Neil Hamilton, I totally agree with you. That's why I've actually photographed all these flies underwater tonight, and I'll be putting them up after I tie each fly. So give us an understanding of why I've tied them the way I tied them, because you'll see them from a bit of a fish's point of view, how the hackles sit in the water film, how they push the water film down, how the bodies look in water. So that's going to come up after I tie each fly. I'm going to put up those photographs, and we're going to discuss them a little bit too along the way. Okay, so once I've tied in that tail, I am going to tie in my ribbon material for this. Okay, so back to the sulky stuff. I know I tied sulky before for all the before we went to Wales. I tied that hare's ear grub pattern that works really well for me, and I talked about sulky, and I got a couple of 100 messages about sulky material and stuff like that. But this is the code for the black sulky. Now, don't be over as important as, say, the copper sulky I'm using on the hare's ear. That doesn't make a difference. This is just really flat. Okay, so you can use buzzer body, you can use very fine black synthetic material, a hank, a crystal flash, something like that, and you will be able to straighten it out. Okay, so it's got to be fine, flat black material. Okay, very important because the body needs to be flat right up to the thorax. Okay, so I'll wind that down a bit further. Not wind the whole way down because at the butt of this fly we need to be as skinny as possible. So here we're going to tie in a bit of grey heron. Okay, now this is not just typical grey heron that I normally use, as you can see, which will be main primary feathers like this one here. Okay, off the wing. This is just off the kind of the shoulder or the the armpit of the wing as such. And as you can see, they're very long and skinny fibres on that. Okay, I tend to use a lot of these for dry flies off the herring bird. Okay, really long, really fine, very skinny. Can be super brilliant for tying dry flies and stuff like that. And I also tie my buzzers with them if I'm doing a herring buzzer, and I'll tie the emergers with them as well. Okay, so I want 3 and 3 only of those for a moment. Again, we're trying to keep that profile as skinny as possible, because when this hits the water, we want this the back end of this fly to penetrate and sit down below that water column. So we'll just tie in the tips, very, very light, very fragile to start with. Okay, so just winding down my Kevlar. Kevlar is great for this because it sits so flat on the hook. We can wind down, wind back up, and not actually have any great bulkiness there. So very gently I'll start to wind it up the fly. Don't worry if there's little gaps right now at the moment, because you'll see what we're going to do with that black ribbon. This is a great buzzer, or a great emerger. This thing has taken some amount of fish for me over the years, and very difficult caught fish. So I'm winding it up. You can see all those little barbs coming up there quite nicely. Yeah, slipped down my hand. That's okay, that happens. If that happens, pull it around to one side, finger on top, move your finger and thumb underneath, pull it around, finger on top. Shorter it gets, finger on top, holding it in position all the time. You can hackle pliers it also, or you can rotate that vice, but for me, the way I was taught, finger on top, like so. Get your thread, couple of turns in there, secure that in, and snip away the waste. Now I'll take my black ribbon material, make sure you don't disturb that tail, and I'll rib that very closely. So you would almost think there's a black underbody ribbed with herring hair. I just have that fly a little bit to the side now. I'll turn it back for you guys so you can kind of see it. So there's quite a lot of ribbon going into that. Very hard for me to see this with these two dark colours because of the lighting that has to be here to do the show. But I'd say that's pretty good. Okay, and then tie it off. Secure it in, pressure onto the thread, and make sure it's well secured. The reason why I tilt the vise a bit to the side is because the curvature of the hook, for the moment, I don't want anything slipping off, and that allows me to tie in that piece, or that section of the fly, without things slipping off. Okay, once I've got that done, I'm going to add in a little bit of red holographic, and this is of course, as always, the Heinz Hank of red holographic. Great early season fly when the iron blues are hatching. Super effective at that period of time. But you'll catch fish on these kind of flies all year round, folks. Just a little bit of a collar there of that. And once I finish my body of any kind of emerger or curved hook, what I'll then do then is I'll actually loosen up the hook and I'll move it a little bit slightly, okay? And this allows me just to tie everything else I need without any threads or tying in, slipping out over the eye. Okay, so just remount the hook a little bit upstream, upwards like that. Just really helps with your tying, that things don't slip off. Okay, we've got quite a bit to add in here. Now what we're going to add in here is what's called a furled hackle. Okay, this is a furled hackle. So what we do is take a blue dun cape. This is a genetic saddle cape, as you can see, quite long. Probably size 18 to 20. Okay. No, I don't, Nigel. You know, I don't at all. No, I don't, because if I super glue that in, that takes away from the body completely. Okay, sometimes, and it's quite strong, that sulky stuff is quite strong, that's why I use it. And sometimes if you glue things in and stuff like that, yes, it might be more convenient for you as regards the fly might last that a little bit longer. Doesn't mean you're going to catch more fish. I would rather tie in a body that's a little bit weaker but means you're going to catch more fish, and tie plenty of them then try and make that fly last longer than it's supposed to. Okay, so we move down to the very end of the hackle, the very tip of the hackle, And what we do is we stroke that straight out, like so. Okay, see what I'm doing with all the barbs here? I'm making it all stroke straight out. Okay? This is a furled hackle goes onto this one. This is what's going to support this fly. Stroke out quite a bit of it, a couple of inches. As you can see what I've done there. Okay? Then we take where we started to stroke it out, we take that and we tie it in there. And this can get a bit tedious. Okay? Sometimes I've done it in practice and it worked for me first time. It can break a little bit too. Okay, take away your waste. And what we're going to do is we're going to furl that. Okay? So, it's quite long here. Okay? It's about 10 inches. We don't need 10 inches of it. We need about 3 or 4 inches. So, I'm going to cut off maybe 5 to 6 inches there. And I'm going to take my hackle pliers. And I'm going to grab the very tip of where I cut it off. And I'm going to start twisting slowly. Okay? Now, as you can see, I'm twisting slowly. And I'm starting to twist that hackle around. You can see what's happening. Okay? We're spinning that. This won't happen unless you straighten out the barbs. And it won't happen unless you tie it in with the tip. Okay? See what's happening? Okay? I'm spinning it. And all those barbs are now sticking straight out. Spin it to a point just before it breaks. Okay? Because that main stem of that hackle is under pressure now. And, you know, it takes a bit of practice to get that, to know when to stop and when not to stop. Okay? But you need to spin it to a certain extent of when it's going to furl. And you'll see what I'm going to do now in a moment. Anybody that's done any furling, you'll notice, you'll know exactly what I'm talking about. Furling leaders or something like that is when we double it back on ourselves and it all furls and locks itself in together. Okay? So you've got to furl it. Okay? So you see what happened to that hackle there now? Okay, we got a nice spin on it, and we're very close to furling as much as we need to do a furled. Okay, in order to furl it then, we get a needle, okay, and we catch it enough. Somewhere there, I'm back about 2.5 inches is probably enough for me. Give yourself a bit of room, okay, and catch the needle and push it back and let the two sides meet. Camera's not going to pick up 100% this. And what happens, it all spins in together. Okay? I'll try and move that over a little bit. So you get an idea. See the way in my hand here? It's all kind of furled up together. It's all spun together. Make sure that furling happens the whole way down to that red tag. Okay? By moving it back and forth. Even if you have to do another couple of spins, which will help with the furling a little bit. Get it to furl right down. Okay? Once that's happened, I then want you to catch the furled piece. Take away your hackle pliers and trap it in. That's not going anywhere and it's not going to change shape or size now, and that's exactly what you have. A lovely furled hackle. There, as you can see, it's in my hand. Okay? And now I can cut away my waste. So there's nothing pretty about this fly, folks, but it sure hell is a fish catcher. Okay? So I'll secure everything in. Now I've got my hackle made. Now, moving on to the next stage, excuse me, what I've done here is I've mixed a little bit of hare's ear, spiky hare's ear, with muskrat. Okay, I really like that muskrat. Remember, we want this fly to be supported in the surface film from the thorax, and we want the lower part of it to penetrate that surface film. It's crucial we get that image that we saw earlier on. Okay, so, you know, I used a little bit of muskrat in there because it has natural oils and stuff in it, and it's really good at supporting that fly. While the hackle will push down the surface film to make it look like the fly is trying to emerge, the muskrat sitting on the surface film will actually help support the fly as well. Okay, so what I'm going to do here is I'm going to split the thread, because we want to keep, thanks Gareth, we want to keep, you'll see the finished thing there now in a few minutes, Gareth. And when you see it in the picture of it floating on the water, you'll actually realise the purpose behind everything I'm doing. So I'm going to split that thread. When I'm doing the thoraxes of emergers, these particular type of emergers, where I'm trying to be real imitative, I will always, you know, split threads, take my time. So we don't want a whole lot there, okay? But we want just enough to create a small, light thorax. So once I've got the dubbing material in between the thread, I will then spin and create a little dubbing brush. A very light one. As it spins, I'll tease out a few things, poke out a few fibres there that I don't want in there. Basically, I'm just going to create a few legs there. Okay. Muskrat, you could do muskrat on its own, but it's a bit soft on its own. That's why I put a little bit of spikiness in there from the hare's ear. Okay, and once I've got that done, then I will then wind it up, just covering in all that workings right up to the head of the fly. Okay, so as you can see there now, what I'll do then is I'll take my dubbing brush. Not really, Neil. No, muskrat is one of those materials. It's like seal's fur. There's, you know, people that invent substitutes, SLFs, and they're pretty close, but it's not like the real thing. No, muskrat is, there's no substitute. We've loads of muskrat here in the shop. I buy skins of it. We've muskrat dubbing downstairs, muskrat patches. You know, never a problem getting muskrat. Okay, so now what I'm going to create now is my loop. Okay, so once I've done the body, I give it a little brush down, and now I'm going to loop my, as you can see, I'm going to loop my furled hackle over the top and create a bubble, because that is crucial to how this fly is going to perform. Okay, nothing pretty about it. No, I decided to go with this shirt tonight because it's going to look better for some of the flies. It's kind of matching a bit with that, but you get a fair idea of where that loop is. And once I have a couple of turns on that, I will trim away the waste. Muskrat is an absolute must, Neil. When it comes to trying to earn blues, blue winged olives and stuff like that, muskrat is absolutely amazing material, amazing dubbing. Natural muskrat, I use so much of it, it's unbelievable. So you can see there now we've created that loop with our furled hackle, okay? And now I'm just going to whip finish right there at the head with my Kevlar and give it a good tighten, and that'll lock right in there. And before I do, I'll spin the fly around, I'll brush out that bit of muskrat, bit of hare's ear, and I'll pluck it and tease it away. Any too strong of fibres that might be sticking down, so they'll restrict that fly from sitting exactly where I want it. Well, then I'll take it away. But there you can see the profile of that emerger. Okay, not the prettiest looking thing in the world, but man oh man, that thing is so effective. Okay, I've been fishing that for a couple of years now, and absolutely stunning. You're going to find it very hard to see that fly sitting in the water. Okay, this is really iron blue time, blue winged olive time. Very hard to see that fly in the water. I always fish that in a tandem, so I would have probably a mature fly, a fully adult fly, dry fly, on a tapered leader down to a bit of tippet. I'll have a dropper. The adult fly will be there. Sometimes you get fish on the adult fly, that's fine. And in this thing will be about 18 inches to 2 foot behind it, sitting down in the water film. Okay. Yeah, it could be, Kevin. We could call it that. We could call it that in the book. But I'm going to show you a picture of this actually sitting in the water now for a minute, folks. And I'll just talk you through it there for a minute because it's important to see this. This is the grey heron, we call it. Okay, so there it is sitting in the water. Okay, you can see it. You see the picture. I think it's on my right. I hope it's on your right too. The one where it shows the underside of it in the water column where that grey heron is sitting down, the black. You know, you've got that lovely segmentation. But you see the way it's pushing down the surface film. It's pushing down as if it's trying to emerge. It's pushing down. Some of the fibres have came below the surface and have really, you know, like the legs are pushing, trying to make that fly. This is the real vulnerable stage of that molting. Okay, when it's really trying to break through. Very natural looking fly. And you see on the other picture, which is on my computer screen, it's to my left, is the top version. Okay, what you see. And it's just a bundle of hackles. Okay, but that's there to support. Okay, that's the loop. That's there to support. Yeah, that's probably a very good thing, James. Yeah, just strike it anyways. If it's in the region, the dry fly on the tandem gives me indication of where my emerger is going to be to set that hook. Any disturbance 18 inches or 2 foot behind my dry fly, I'm going to set that hook. But there, that gives you a fairly good visual of how that fly works in the water. But it's how it pushes, as you can see it saying that picture of the underwater part of where the body is. You can see the ribbon and the material there. Is how it pushes down that surface film. You know, if there's a trout there, a very fussy trout, patrolling water, looking for very, very vulnerable flies in that molten stage, they are going to hit that. They are going to hit it. So that technique of doing the loop on top with the furled hackle achieves that. There's not too many other ways I know that can achieve that same thing in that distinctive manner that you can see there. It's so distinctive. When we go to some of the other patterns are going to tie now, while you will see it, you won't see it quite as distinctive as that one. Okay, that's because of that mess of hackle you've just put on top. Now, I didn't gink those flies. I didn't treat those flies before I took those pictures. So you can imagine, thanks Stephen, so you can imagine Neil Hammer, thanks Neil for letting us know. England are out on the way home. Hey, look at France. France are no angels either. Thierry Henry didn't do us any favours a couple of years back, so I wasn't too bothered by either match either way. But you know, things like that, you'll see the other emergers I'm tying now. You won't achieve that sort of a look with clink hammers and stuff like that. You won't achieve that sort of look with some of the other emergers. Jim, it is and it isn't. Great question. For me, if I'm tying the Iron Blues, because it's that kind of colour, you know, it's going to, you know, some of the legs are going to come down and stuff like that. Martin Kenny's happy anyway. There's a lot of people happy around. But it is and it isn't. For me, no, I tie olives in that same fashion. The technique is what I'm really trying to get across there, Jim. You know, you can tie olives, you can tie black emergers, all sorts of stuff with that technique. But for me personally, that particular fly, them colour combinations, that hackle is absolutely fantastic, and it's been very, very effective for me over the years. So one definitely worth having, and a technique worth looking at for the year to come ahead. Actually, I meant to show you this earlier on. There's the two hampers that we have going at the moment. You see one Pescari C in game. It's a like and share, and then on the other one is Pescari Fly. Two massive hampers. Both are valued at over €250. So head over to our, after the show or during the show, whenever, head over to our Facebook pages, like, share, tag two buddies, and you could be into windows. The draw will be made on the 23rd of December, so you have loads of time left, folks. We'll put up a few reminders along the way, but just to give something back, you know, these are fantastic supporters of Pescari Fly here over the year, and we love to be able to give something back over the Christmas period. So it's just something there to give something back to you, and say thanks very much for all your support over the year. Same with the Christmas special. Massive prizes coming up in the Christmas special, folks. Say that year's membership to Mount Juliet Estate, worth a couple of £100 is coming up as well, along with a lot of other stuff. So do head over to our Facebook page and stay tuned for lots of giveaways over the Christmas period. Right, so we're going to move on to the next segment of the show. We're going to head over and we're going to do a little bit of casting now, folks. It's all well and good to be able to tie dry flies. It's all well and good to be able to, you know, understand your rods and reels and all that. It's another thing to be able to tie flies. And I remember talking to a very good French man one time, and he always said to me, it was more important to understand your leaders and be able to cast a fly properly than to have good dry flies. Because if you can't cast properly, you can't present those flies properly. And if you're tying emergers like this for very finicky, very, very stubborn fish, well then, if you haven't got the right presentation, you're not going to be able to catch those fish either, because you're going to spook them, put them off, presentation won't be right. So, Peter Wadding, of course, as always, has made us a load of videos. He'll be coming along a lot over the next couple of sections. Thanks a million to Peter Wadding and Robbie Berry, of course. We've been watching Robbie for the last couple of weeks. Made us a nice video here on casting into the wind. So, hope you take something from it. I'll see you back in a few moments, folks, for another cracking emerger pattern. Stay tuned. See you in a minute.
Up to what we call our key position. Pause to allow the dealer to form. And then we make a forward cast like so. Once more, straight line incline, up to the key position, pause to allow the dealer to form, and we make our forward cast. Hello everybody, and welcome to this week's instalment of Casting Clinic with me, Peter Wadding. Today, we are dealing with one of the most annoying things that a fly fisherman can come across during their time on the water. That's right, this week we're looking at the wind, and how we can contend with the wind on any given day. So, let's begin by talking about a calm day. Just to give a little bit of perspective here. If I'm making a cast on an ordinary day without any wind, my casting plane, let's say, can be a little bit more level. So, I could have an angle between my rod stopping position and my rod starting position like so. Could be quite level. However, on a day where there's a wind in our face, we need to adjust that slightly so that our back cast is a little bit higher and our forward cast is a little bit lower. Reason for that is it gives the wind less chance to actually blow the line. So what that looks like as we've got a wind coming into our faces here at the moment, I'm going to start with the rod tip low. My back cast is going to be high and my forward cast is going to be low like so. So high in the back and low in the front. It allows less time for the wind to actually pick it up. So high in the back and low in the front. Okay, so that covers us for a situation where we're facing into the wind. However, what would we do if the wind was on our back? Well, there are times where we can use the wind to our advantage in that scenario, where we can keep our back cast fairly straightforward, but if we make a slightly higher trajectory on the way forward, the wind can actually catch our line and blow it away for us without having to make much effort. So the wind can actually be used to our advantage there, and the wind can carry it away. So that's the wind in front of us and the wind behind us. However, what would we do then if we're faced with a situation where we have a wind coming in from our off shoulder, or into our casting shoulder, I should say. So imagine if the wind is coming in to my right shoulder in this direction, but I'm a right-handed caster. If I try make the cast, the line's going to blow in towards me. Very dangerous thing to happen. The hook could come anywhere close to me. We don't want that. We don't want to ruin our nice day on the water. So what you can do then is we can move the rod, we can tilt the rod over to our opposite shoulder. Because if I just make the cast now, the wind is blowing everything away from me now. So the wind is somewhat paying advantage to me. So I can just tilt the rod like so. And that takes care of the wind from this side. Now, very unprofessional of me to say this now, but I'm about to turn my back to the camera, because if we're talking about a wind that's coming in to our off shoulder, so if the wind is coming in this direction, which it is now, we've already done a video on that, which we spoke about the Belgian oval cast, because if the wind is blowing in this direction, I'm able to use the Belgian oval cast and everything is blowing in that direction. It's kept away from me. It's a much safer cast to perform in wind. Okay? So, just to recap, if the wind is coming towards us, it's high in the back and low in the front. Gives the wind less time to catch the line. It's high in the back, low in the front. If the wind is behind us and going in this direction, we can make our forward cast just that little bit higher so the wind will carry it away for us. Again, it depends on the strength of the wind, I would add. If the wind is coming in to our casting shoulder like so, it's better to tilt the rod and change the angle ever so slightly so that the wind keeps it away from us, like so. And then, if it's coming into our casting shoulder, we can use something like the Belgian oval cast, I should say. However, you can still use an ordinary cast that we spoke about, the ordinary overhead cast. It'll be blown away from you, it'll be kept nice and safe. So, I hope that gives you a little bit of an insight into how to deal with the wind coming at you from different angles. As you know, it can change on any given day. Hope that's of some help to you. Tight lines. Up to what we call our key position. Pause to allow the dealer to form, and then we make the forward cast like so. Once more, straight line incline, up to the key position, pause to allow the dealer to form, and we make our forward.
So we're back there now, folks. Nearly forgot to click the sound button. We're back there now, folks. Thanks, Peter, for that. Peter's going to be along with us for the next couple of weeks, folks, giving some great tips and on some casting techniques. And, you know, this is the time of year if you want to practice your casting. This is the time of years. To get out there in the grass and do it. You know, there's no point going into March and saying I'm going to practice my casting when I get onto the river to go fishing, because it's two different things. You go to the river to go fishing, you don't go to the river to practice your casting. You know, so get out there in the grass now during the winter months, folks. I do it. Absolutely, John. Yeah, Dave, right, and Kevin. You know, get out in the grass now this time of the year. Practice a few simple casts, and it will improve your fishing to no end, especially when we're fishing emergers, dries, long lock style, double hauling. Peter's got the whole thing covered for us for the next couple of weeks, months even. We're going to be on here live until March. So do stay tuned with us, folks, till the first Saturday of March. We've got some great shows coming up. Pike nights, salmon nights, sea bass nights, the whole thing. But tonight we're on an emergers, and we're going to move on now, folks, before we head over to George McGrath. George McGrath kindly done us and he titled it his most deadly dry fly. Okay, I would say it is, maybe George might think it's an emerger, but it certainly has all the components for an emerger for me, and that's why I decided to keep it for tonight. He tied it for us a good few weeks ago. Keep it for tonight. Some lovely Irish there. If you love hearing a bit of Irish, George McGrath's on, speaking fluent Irish, and it's worth listening to alone. Absolutely. Jason Corcoran's on was there as well from the Blackwater. How you doing, Jason? I hope you and the family are all keeping well down there in Blackwater trout and salmon. Make sure and check him out there for a bit of fishing next season. Okay, so back onto the flies here. We're on a size 14 Pescari fly clinkhammer hook here again, and we've just put in some Kevlar, Pescari fly Kevlar, and I'm going to put in a bit of cocktail yarn. This is the pretty emerger, okay? This is the pretty emerger. Again, 3 or 4 only components. By the way, folks, these all, are quite effective on the lakes as well as there in the rivers. We're just altering sizes, basically, okay? Bit of cocktail yarn. And once again, quite long. 1.5 times the length of the fly you're going to tie. Okay? So tails are always quite long in emergers. And take away a bit of waste. Now here we're going to put in a little bit of Dave O'Donoghue will be along there a little bit with his trivia. Make sure and watch out for that one, folks. I'm going to add in a little bit of olive stripped quill here from Polish Quills. You'll find all these in our shop as well online. And I'm going to tie it on down. So I'm just going to hold that tail in place and make my way down along with my Kevlar. Not tying it in too early because I don't want to bulk up that body, nor do I want to use up too much of the body of the quill and run out. Make sure you tie it deep enough that it's going to sit well below that surface film. Okay, whip back up your thread up along. Good stuff, Pat. Pat Kennedy's on with us there as well. Lots of lads coming on now after watching the match. Don't forget, folks, if you share the stream, you will be in with a chance to win all these flies tonight. And the other 3 or 4 I tied in practice to photograph for you. So, one of the most important features of a good emerger is a slim body below the thorax that allows it to penetrate into that surface film. Okay, so as you can see, I got a lovely slim body there now, and I'm just winding up that stripped quill up to exactly where it needs to be. Very slim. That thing is going to penetrate, no problem, as soon as it hits the water. Okay, I'm sure they will, Dave. So make sure it's well secured in. Now we're going to have to protect that a little bit. So I do use a little bit of resin on this one because I've no natural materials, dubbins or furs or fibres or feathers. And now we can put a little bit of our Solarez. I always use the tin and hard Solarez. Okay, find it the best of them all. On a little artist brush, I just take it out of a little tub. A good few people have been asking me lately, and Dylan Robert came up with I had a great conversation with Dylan Robert over in Wales. A really good friend. It was always great. It's worth the whole trip nearly just going over to meet Dylan. Dylan's the vice chairman of Cohen Anglers. And by the way, I congratulated Mark and Wetcher Not, Adam Stafford and Tom O'Connor and his team all on a great result in the Welsh Day. But an even bigger congratulations to Hewell Morgan, Dylan Roberts and their team on running an amazing competition, because every year the guys do an amazing job in running that competition. It's a fantastic social competition, one I look forward to every year. Love meeting up with so many people. Every year we make new friends and it's a bit of crack. You get to fish and you get to control, so you get to watch some really good teams. So Dylan, well done to yourself and Hewell and all the lads that help out there on getting that competition over the line every year. It's a fantastic event. No mean feat running a competition in December, I can tell you. There's an awful lot, if, buts and whats. So once I've treated that, I've coated it with the resin. I give it a zap of me pen and it's ready to go. Okay, now let me think where I am here with this one. I actually need to pull this one out of the tray here just to make sure, because there's a few stages in tying this thing as I go forward, and I don't want to have to hold this up and go backwards. Okay, got it here in front of me. So now I'm going to take a little bit of Hen's Crystal Flash Pearl, and we only want, just take off one. Sometimes I do, Dennis. Sometimes I do. If I was tying dries and stuff like that, I would do that instead of coating the top of it. But because I want this thing to be as sleek as possible, to sit down, I actually want the weight of the resin to push the, the solidness of the resin, nearly, Dennis, on the body, to push that thing as soon as it enters, to push it down, hang it down. And again, you'll see the pictures now in a moment of what I mean when I took pictures of this being photographed under the or in the water. But sometimes I do put a bit of glue underneath. Yeah, definitely for my dries, I would often do that, Dennis. And sometimes even buzzers, depends on the look and the finish I want. Okay, so once we've got those two little bits of pearl sitting back there, we're now going to take up 3 small pieces of CDC. Okay, this is what I would describe as river CDC. Okay, 3 small pieces. Even if I was tying these, this is a size 12 I'm tying here. Okay, so even if I was tying this for lock style, I'd still pick up those same small 3 pieces, because they're thin. When you put the 3 of them together, they don't bulk up too much, okay? They're nice and thin, but they're also a little bit bright. Okay, this is a Biscari fly CDC. And what we're going to do is we're going to tie that the length of the body. Okay, so I put it up there and make sure the tips of the CDC are the full length of the body, and then I'll move my finger and thumb back to where they're actually going to be fixed into the, or onto the hook, should I say. Okay? Happy with that. Make sure everyone's sitting on its top, and those 2 little bits of pearl flash are sticking out under that CDC. Oh, that hook stuck to me. And trim away your waist. And before we go any further, we'll just make sure it's all well trapped in and well secured. Thanks, Dennis. Thanks, Alan. Good to see Alan Ellis on there. Dylan Roberts still talking about 1966. I'm not going to go into that whole thing. But anyway, so now I'm going to massage out my... Wait till you see that in the picture coming up now in a few moments, Alan. You'll see that this fly sitting under the water. I'm just massaging out my Kevlar to flatten it out, as you can see. Once I start massaging it with my needle, you see the way it starts to flatten out? It makes it really easy to split. Okay. Once I massaged it out, I've got a little bit of olive, hare's ear, and fine Sabaya Spectra in there. Pearl. Simple little mix. If you have a little bit of olive hare's ear, or if you have a little bit of olive rabbit or something, and mix a little bit of hare's in it, just for the same purpose as before. We want that little bit of spikiness. We want that lovely softness too, to make it meaty. Add in a little bit, not too much, don't overdo it. Okay, and like before, as I said, I always spin, make the dumb brush for the emergers, because I want the dubbing. I don't just roll it on and then lash it in there, because it just bulks it up too much and it won't allow that fly to sit exactly. And as I'm spinning it, as you can see, I'm picking out any unwanted stuff that might bulk it up a bit too much. Okay, so once I'm kind of happy to... Hey, Rob Redmond's on there with us as well. Good to have you on there, Rob. Met Rob over the weekend over in Wales. Fantastic angler, and definitely one to watch for the future. Rob had the biggest fish in Wales. My apologies, Rob. Rob Redmond had the biggest fish in Wales, guys. 49, Rob, was it? Was it 49 cm? An amazing fish, Rob. Well done. So once I've tied that in and got that lovely straggly look to a very, thin in the body of the dubbin, I'm going to catch that CDC and pull it over the top. Okay, 1 or 2 turns over the top is enough, and then what I'll do is I'll lift the CDC up, and I'll always put a couple of turns to the bare hook at the eye. Alright, whip finish. The whip finish again, thanks Hugh, the whip finish again goes on the bare hook at the eye, under the CDC, not over the CDC, folks. Okay, want a slight little kick on that. By the way, what do you think of the beige kind of shirt behind the time? Is it better than the blue? I find sometimes trying to focus in on the blue, I know when I'm setting up, is a bloody nightmare. I'd love to know your thoughts on it. Are you happy with the way it looks right now at the moment? It's easier on the eye rather than the blue look. So what I'm going to do now is these 2 little bits of crystal flash sticking out the back. I'm going to cut them quite short, just like that. They're the wing cases for this. So this is the better looking of all the flies. Hey Jay, thanks Alan. You'll get fish on this anywhere. Still waters, loch style, rivers. Just trim it up and tidy it up. You don't want anything to restrict that body. You know, you don't want any pieces of coming back there, legs or CDC or anything coming back along that body. That body's got to be able to sit down in the water. So it's going to be quite visible, a lot more visible than the last one. Thanks Dennis, appreciate that. Better than the blue, yep, I think so too. It's certainly a lot more easier for me to focus in the cameras and stuff on a kind of a beigey look than the blue. The blue can be a bit bright. Thanks Robert. So you know, really nice. Let's take a look. Let's go to the money shot here. I'm going to head over to a picture of this one sitting on the water, and it will give you a real good idea of how this one sits. So here we can see on the left the underwater picture of that olive quill sitting. See how deep that thing sits? Okay, the last one did not sit that deep. We still are able to achieve that pushing down of the surface film. You can see the wing case in underneath. That goes under the surface, and that's exactly where I want it. Thanks, Graham. Appreciate the feedback, Neil. Thanks, Dylan. So you can see we've achieved exactly what we want to achieve in this particular look. Now then, if you look at the portion of the fly that's over the surface, you can see the thorax semi-supporting. That's because the CDC is there semi-supporting the fly above the surface, and obviously we got that big post above. That's going to be very highly visible for us. This is something I fish in a bit more riffly water where I need that bit of visibility, or if I have to fish a fly on its own. Okay, but again, looking at the trout's view, you can see pushing down that surface film, the legs underneath, very similar to the picture we showed right at the start of the program. If I go back to it there now for a second, you know, that the whole leggy thing underneath the surface. Exactly, Dennis, like a shuttle. Yeah. Well, Patrick McCarthy, we'll see how the Christmas party goes, Patrick. We'll see how the Christmas party goes, the Christmas special. But you can see that picture there of the look we want of the body, the thorax, the abdominal, everything like that, and how we're achieving that kind of look. Thanks, Brendan. You know, it all gives us a visual aspect, and it's very important when you're trying to merge to have that concept in mind of what you're trying to achieve here. You know, what you're trying to achieve of the fly, the tie-in, the materials you're using, and how they're going to affect how the fish visualize that fly, or how they'll sit in that water column, because you're trying to achieve that real vulnerable point of when it's trying to emerge, when it's trying to molt into the next stage of its life cycle, and that is what the trout are watching for. You know, so well worth keeping a kind of a one eye on that kind of a thing before you choose your materials and stuff like that. Folks, I'm going to take yeah, absolutely, Rob. Yeah, absolutely, we'll definitely get their attention. Yeah. I'm going to take a little break, and I'm going to hand you over to the one and only Mr. George McGrath. Love this guy, speaking some beautiful Irish down in Clonmel, County Tipperary. He is tying his most deadly dry fly. Do not turn this one off, folks. All right, take a look at this. I'm going to screw. I have a lot of click-ins to do tonight now. I can nearly do with a producer on this show, I think, but where have I got here? Here I got him here. Okay, so George McGrath here, putting his in the trusted hands of George McGrath, tying his most deadliest dry fly. Enjoy this. I'll be back in a few moments, folks, and I've got probably my number one emerger pattern coming up. Okay, enjoy. See you in a moment.
Fear fall to roiveríist cardja iascari is shalgari. Agus on bouta seo tá cuil tiram úntucha gomdíobh. Is féidirí a úsáid ó túsca deireadh an téalsúr, agus caithim rá go bhfuil sé fíor úsáideach agus éafachtóil. So fannaigí lomsa le hé sin. Now the tying of this fly is, I suppose, moderate level of difficulty. Not difficult for anyone who's an experienced fly tyer, but for a beginner it might be a little bit of a handful. But practice makes perfect, as they say. Now the materials I use for tying this fly, the hook first off. This is the hook I use. Now this is one of a batch of around 5,000 hooks that I bought from a guy at a game fair in England quite some time ago. So there was no maker's name on them. They're a very good hook. Basically, I think they could best be described as a long shank with a moderate curve. So maybe you get some of those clinkhammer hooks that would serve the same purpose. Unfortunately, I'm unable to tell you the manufacturer's name, but you get the idea anyway. It's a longer than standard shank and just a slight curve. Now, the other materials that I use to tie this fly are deer hair and CDC. Two brilliant materials used separately, but in this case I'm going to use them both together, which gives a particular efficacy to this fly. So I'm going to tie this fly using Semperfli wax thread in 8/0, and it's orange colour. Now I'll talk a bit more about the body colour in a while, but suffice to say we start just a little bit back from the eye and make our way down along the hook shank, and we go a bit around that curve, and now I'm going to work my way back up again, and that is the body. It's really slim and thin. You'll notice it's very, very thin and slim, and that is consistent with a real fly. If you pick up a real fly, any sort of little olive fly, and have a look at it, you'll notice that the body on it is extremely thin and slim and delicate. And a lot of the time, flies can be overdressed. So that little slim body is just perfect. And the body colour in this case is orange, but you can change the colour to suit whatever fly you consider is hatching at the time. You can use olive or black or red or green or whatever body colour. The principal thing is that you keep it nice and slim, as like this. Now, the next thing here is my CDC. And what I'm going to do is I'm going to put 3 or 4 feathers together. That's 2, 3. I think 3 should be enough. And that's what you're looking for. Now the length that you tie it in is roughly 2/3 the body length. So you go make one turn around, and then on the second one you tighten down. And I'm making 2 or 3 turns in that direction. And now I'm going to cut the CDC at an angle. I won't cut it straight across. If I cut it straight across, I'll create a step. And although it may not seem significant, it may well be. So I'm cutting it at an angle, and that will give me somewhat of a taper on the body, as you can see there. Now I'm coming back up. Now my CDC, I lift vertically and tie in front of it. And that will have the effect of getting it to stand up vertically like that. Now that fly, you could use it just as is, but I think the addition of the deer hair actually adds to the effectiveness of this fly. So what I'm going to do now is I'm going to cut out a little bit of deer hair, and about that much. That's the best way I can describe it. And now I'm going to put it in here into my hair stacker. And I'm going to tap it on the table. And the difficulty here now is to get it from here into a tying position without shifting all the ends of it and making them uneven. So that's 1, 2, 3 moves to get it to there. That's where I want it to be. And now I swap it to this hand. I'm approximating the length of the CDC, so the deer hair and the CDC are roughly the same length. And now I'm going to cut it and tie it in. A couple of turns around it and then tighten down. So now there we have our CDC and our deer hair together. And what you have is the CDC was heading that direction, the deer hair heading that direction, and we have both of them meeting like this together, which binds them together and makes for a super effective wing. And now I'm going to whip finish and just give it an extra little knot just for security's sake. And that, my friends, is a brilliant dry fly. Now I've tied that in a size 16. You can tie it in larger or smaller sizes, whatever the case may be. It's the actual effect of the CDC and the deer hair together just gives a brilliant profile and a nice slim body. It makes for a beautiful fly. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to put up a couple of photographs here now of the same fly with different colour bodies, and you can see just a little bit of variety, if you like. So as I said in the beginning, in Irish, you can use this fly from the very beginning of the season all the way through to the end, and it's brilliantly effective. In fact, it's a fly that you could use just exclusively throughout the season. Just vary the body colour and the size, and it will work 99% of the time. So Shin Shin a Chairde Iascairí. I hope you enjoyed the video. Maybe you found it instructive. Don't be without this fly in your fly box if you like to fish a dry fly. It's absolutely brilliant. So once again, I hope you enjoyed watching the video. Thanks very much for joining me, and Gadi Gachasfer at Akela Arishmid Bigi Eg Iascrocht. Slán go fóil.
So we're back there now, folks. Thanks a million, George McGrath, for that lovely pattern. George is always a great supporter here at Scary Fly and the show, indeed. Always more than willing to share the patterns. It's great to have so many people that will come on with the caliber of the likes of George, that will come on and share here with us. And you know, some great tie-ins there and great simple patterns, and that's why I love the simplicity of the patterns, and they're so effective. Thanks a million, George. Wish you and everyone a happy Christmas going forward, if I'm not talking the next couple of weeks, but I'll give you a shout there before Christmas, George, and hope you're keeping well. Moving on there now, folks. Don't forget, hit Dave. Yeah, I was just going to ask you that, Dave. Any chance of the question? Dave's got the question coming up, folks, so watch out for that one. We're going to move on to another lovely emerger pattern here. Definitely my most effective emerger pattern I have for fishing for those trout that are really targeting those emergers during a hatch. But don't forget, share the stream to be in to win tonight's flies. And if you haven't seen it already, head over to our Facebook page as Pescari Seeing Game, Pescari Fly, and you can be in chance to win 2 massive hampers there. Trying to find the pictures of them there now. There we go. 2 massive hampers up for grabs. Just to say thanks and happy Christmas to everyone, and thanks everyone for the support over the year. One in Pescari Fly, one in Pescari Seeing Game. Both are over €250. All you got to do is like and share and tag 2 buddies. And the draw will be done on December 23rd. We will be live at 9 p.m. that night to draw the winners and give you the information of how you can win free membership to Mount Juliet for our Christmas special, which will take place between Christmas and New Year's. One of those nights when we're all fed up. Absolutely, Jim. Yeah, you'd hardly recognise George without the beard, but looking good there, George. But we'll give you the information on the 23rd, how you can win that membership to Mount Juliet, and all the other prizes we're going to have for our Christmas special, which will happen between Christmas and New Year's Eve. One of those nights when we're all fed up of eating and drinking and doing everything else. Thanks, Dennis. We'll have a night of fly tying and a bit of crack. Got a great old Christmas show planned. Got some great special guests coming on for the night. So do watch out for that one, folks. Keep an eye on our Facebook page. The information will be coming up on the date of that one this week. So back to the fly tying. So we're going to tie another fly for you here now. I just have to pull it out of the little tub here. Don't forget, if you share the stream, you're in a chance to win all these flies. Dave has asked a question here. Let me just go back here for a moment. See, question coming up. Dave, did you put that question up on the Pescari fly stream? I'm not seeing that question. I see an answer coming in already, Dave, but I'm not seeing. Martin Kenny's still laughing about 1966 anyway. I'm not sure if that's the answer to the question. But Dave, are you on the Pescari fly stream? I am not seeing that. The Pescari fly stream is the main stream. Now there is other streams going on as well, all the time. But in the voice here, I'm going to put in another size 14 Pescari fly. Yeah, Dennis, I'm not seeing the question either. So Dave, Adrian Codd is also saying questions are up. Dave, are you on the Pescari fly stream or absolutely Jay, yeah, muskrat for the blue duns, absolutely fantastic. Iron blue duns and blue duns. If you're tying them, you got to have that dubbin. Okay, muskrat dubbin, we have loads of it in shop. I have loads of patches and the dubbin actually mixed already for you. Pat Kenny's also saying that's seen it. VR, Graham Lanigan's on there, of course. Graham is a great follower of Dave's. VAR, I think you're right, Graham. I think we'll have to call him VAR. Could be yellow card here, Graham. Could be yellow card, possible red. Yeah, could have to be one for everyone in the audience tonight. But there's loads of people guessing poundages and weights, so I guess he's asking something. But that's the dubbin. You want for the iron blues and stuff like that. Well worth, and we're going to use it in this. This is a blue winged olive emerger. Okay, absolutely lethal. Okay, so we got a size 14 in the vice here. I'm going to put on a bit of Kevlar thread. Sinbin. Yeah. Put a bit of Kevlar thread on here as usual. Start it off and take away our waste. Black card. Oh yeah, it could be. Yeah. Robbie Berry's guessing weights there as well. So I imagine the question is something to do with weights. Dave, if you wouldn't mind sticking that question up on the Pescari fly stream. James Hope is on there, or has he put it up? I'm going back here over the questions and I still can't see it. Because remember, Dave, it's like the Pescari fly stream is the main stream. There's loads of other streams going there. I'm very appreciative of the amount of streams that go off the show. A little bit of Coq de Leon here for the tail. Very dark Coq de Leon. Okay, and again, 1.5 times the body of the fly. It's shared all across the world on lots of different streams. John Johnson, yeah. No one see the question. Dave, even if you text me the question, I can read it out, and then people will know the question. Very good. Kevin Mars on there. What weight of hair came off George's beard? So once I've tied in that tail, we'll get it sorted now, folks, or Dave will come on there now in a moment and give us if the answer hasn't been got already. That maybe could be Destiny. Okay, so for the body here, okay, it's a kind of heavy material. Oh, there, Dave's on now. Don't know if everyone saw the question, but the winner is Graham Lonigan. A sea bass of 17 pounds, 13 ounces. Okay, so I think Dave was asking, what was the Irish record of sea bass caught in Ireland? What is the Irish record of sea bass? I'm just going back on here now to see the question. What is the Irish record of sea bass caught in Ireland? And it's 17 pound, 13 ounces. Graham Lonigan is a winner. Dennis Goulin's calling for a new question. Do you know what? Kenneth, no, didn't see it. Do you know what? He's kind of have a point there. He's kind of have a point. Sure about. It's the Irish record, Dennis. He's kind of have a point there because the question really wasn't on the mainstream, so a lot of people didn't see it. So I agree with quite a few of yous. By the way, folks, or I can say, look, I'm going to talk about the question now as I go along as well. Okay, so here I've got a bit of tin skin. This is waspy tin skin, as you can see, and it's on a card. Okay, so the only way to cut waspy tin skin is with a blade. Okay, not with a scissors, but with a blade. Okay, you want to cut that dead straight. So what I've got here is a small little slip of it, and it's still on the card. And what I'm doing there, while I was just mucking around, Mikey Foley, took him 5 minutes. Loved a bit of crack. While it's still on the card, you got to taper in the very bottom end. Okay, don't take the tin skin off the card before you taper it, because if you do, it's a bloody nightmare to taper it, and you don't taper properly, and then when you go to pull it over and wrap it around, it breaks. Okay, so you got to do it while it's on the card. So as you can see, I've tapered the very end of it, and now I pull it off the card. Okay, now you'll have a matte finish to one side and a glossy finish to the other side. So it depends on the look or the finish of the fly that you want as regards to whether you use the glossy side or if we turn it over. It's a matte side. Okay, so it's not completely coloured in. There's a bit of translucence to it, okay, because of the motile effect. So I'll just catch it in the very tip and wind it down the hook. Putting a nice bit of pressure on that thread and holding, as you see, I just picked up the tail and holding the tail in place. Winding down the thread, putting a nice bit of pressure on it, making sure I'm keeping it as slim as possible, that under profile, because this stuff is quite thick, okay, and it can build it up a little bit. So I have the glossy side facing me, so when I wind it back up, the fly, it's going to be the matte side out. And I wind my thread back up. Mikey Foley, or Dave and Mikey are having a bit of crack there. The horsefish bait. Okay, so people are agreeing. A winner there is the winner, and Adrian Codd and John Johnson, all those. Good luck to the two winners. Yep. Okay, right. We'll leave it at that, so folks, and we'll move on. There's going to be lots of winners over the Christmas period. We're going to be giving away a ton of stuff over the Christmas period, so lots of winners. Okay, so what I'm going to just do here before I move on any further is, I'm actually, you know what, I'm going to, Kevlar is so fine, I'm going to go back down and put another layer on that. You can afford to do that with Kevlar, you can't afford to do that with any other thread. Okay, and I got a yellow permanent marker here in my hand, and I'm going to colour that thread, which will help tint the underbody, which will help the molten look of this fly. Okay, pro marker or any permanent marker will do. Absolutely, John Johnson, you're spot on. Sure, it's only a bit of crack, lads. Yep, you're absolutely right. So now what I'm going to do is I'm going to take this tin skin and I'm going to wind it up the hook. Gets bulky, not the prettiest thing in the world, but man, it's so effective. And you want those ridges. Okay, so you're overlapping. Take your time. Don't put too much pressure on the tin skin, because I want it to overlap. And if you push, no, John, it's not. It's only available in white. We don't do it in any other colour. If you want another colour, all you got to do is buy yourself a set of pro markers. That's all we've ever used. Okay, I want it overlapping because, and it's happened. Okay, I'm actually, you know what? In a way, I'm delighted it happened. That it broke. I was just going to say, don't put too much pressure on it because it will break. And if it happens, you just wind back. Simple as wind back and start again. There's no way of cheating this one, and that's no problem. It takes me a moment just to wind back, reeling back in my Kevlar, and I'll start again. I was just about to say don't put too much pressure on, but I wasn't concentrating because I was looking at messages coming in online, trying to tie the flies. Now my tail is upset as well. And you know what? I'm just going to wind it all the way back. And this is the joy of fly tying, folks. Anybody that's starting off, getting into fly tying, even how much you practice, how much you tie, and I can tie. On Monday when I came home from Wales, I had quite a few orders to tie. I'd put them off just before I went to Wales, and I tied for 21 hours straight. 21 hours to catch up with orders. Back in my tailing material. Absolutely, Neil. Get the back in my tailing material. Now I'm kind of snookered because I can't actually find my blade, so I'm going to do a little cheat on this one. I'm going to try to be a little bit quicker here. Catch up. So once I've tied in my tailing material, I'll then add it in back in my body material, holding everything in place, tie down along. I just got one of those with my nail. Make sure I'm happy with everything. Then I'll wind up and I'll wind back down. So when you are winding this up, as you can see from the problem it caused me, Dave, he made a mistake once. As you can, it can happen, you know, and it is always better to go back. You know, there's no. Sometimes you can fix things, as you've seen in other shows. I've fixed things, and that's okay. You know, sometimes there is ways to get out of it. Sometimes there's not. That was one of the moments where it's not. Okay. So now I'll take my. Would you believe it? Twice. Oh my gosh. Must be something in the air tonight, folks. I'm still going to tie this fly for you. And I was actually looking at the clock there when it was George's video was going up. I was thinking, God, I thought it was going to be much longer night tonight. We're very quick tonight, and that's what I get for saying that. We're lucky enough. I can just go back to that section there, and the tailing is still fine, and the body's going in, and I just need to concentrate more on the fly tying rather than the messages. Getting this fly right. No, Glenn, it's not. Yeah, Graham Lonigan, 21 hours. And you know what, Graham? I enjoyed every minute of it. Every minute of it. I love time flies. 3 times in a row. I am really doing something wrong tonight, folks. Do you know what? I'm going to do something here now for 1 second. I'm going to cut that loose, drop the hook. There's a time where you say enough is enough, put in a fresh hook, and start from scratch. Tying materials. I'm a little bit faster on this one now. Tailing material. 3 strands. 1.5 times the length. Wind it down. I'm going to go with a new piece of. Now I have to find my blade. I think what could be happening is I didn't have the blade, and when you make the scissors cut, when you make the first cut and the second cut, there's a little ridge there. Remember I was talking before about cutting tin skin and stuff like that. You can't help it. There's always going to be a little what you call it. Yeah, you could be right, Pat. There's always going to be a little nick, kind of a such, in the side of the thin skin. And same with, you know, working with scud back and stuff like that. That kind of material that you don't want that little nick, because that's where it's going to break. I think that was probably my problem. Well, it's good to show. Good to see. Nobody's perfect in this game, folks. Nobody. Now, make sure my tail is in position and start winding it up. Feeling good about this one. I better not nick it with the point of the hook. Okay, so we're going to wrap it half over on top. We want this body to be segmented. We want it to be lumpy and bumpy. We don't want it to be nice and smooth. That's where we're using tin skin. Molted tin skin. Like that. Once we get up to where we want the thorax to begin, drop the thread over a couple of times, tie in your waist and put the pressure back on the thread. And there we go. Fourth time lucky. A fine hook, Jim. Always on a fine hook. These three flies I've tied tonight are on the Biscari fly clink hammer hooks. They're fine wire hooks. Okay, let me see where I am with this. Okay, so the next part I'm going to add in here is a bit of white CDC. Again, we're going to show the picture of this fly under the surface, and we'll give you a good idea of why we do what we do. Okay, now these are much larger white CDC feathers than we were talking about before, and it's you know, there's nothing pretty about that body, but that's exactly the way I want it. Okay, so quite a larger white CDC, single feather on its own. Now we tie it in high up on the CDC. Okay, don't catch the points and tie it in like that. Tie it high up, and then pull it through. As you can see what I'm doing. Okay, very important to do that. And then tie it off there before we get too neat. Okay, if you try to tie it in at a tip, you won't get the same effect. Alright, so always tie it in high up towards the stiff end of the stem and then pull it through. You get a much better finish on this fly for that reason alone. Take off our waist and make sure everything's well secured in. Now for dubbing for this, I actually had a little bit mixed. Okay, we're going back to our muskrat. Okay, for that nice soft natural material. This is for a blue-winged Oliver merger. Thanks, Rob. Rob Redmond's on today. Cool as a cucumber. Different when you're in front of the camera, Rob, but I do alright. I do alright. And here I've got a little bit of medium olive seals fur. And I'm going to take a small pinch of that. So I'm basically substituting, and I'm just going to mix them between my finger and thumb. I'm basically substituting off the other flies. I had muskrat mixed with hare's ear to create the spikiness. This time it's going to be the olive seals fur. Okay? I'm just mixing that in there with the muskrat. Just to give me that subtle look. Of that finished fly when it's sitting in the water. Okay, once I've got everything happy and I'm teased out, I'll go back again and I'll do my massaging of the thread and get ready for a split. Here's my needle. I'll just split that thread and I'll put in my little bit of dubbing that I've just mixed up there. Again, as always, folks, less is more. It's not as cold here in Kilkenny tonight as it has been last night or the night before, actually. Not as cold. Starting to spin it up there now, creating my dumb brush. And again, doing this everything the same as done before. Tinning it out, making sure I get a nice fine tin layer on that. Making sure I come back onto that nice body that I made. It took me 4 times to make. And once I got that thorax in, brush everything back, get a couple of turns just at the head. And now we're going to take this and create another bubble. Okay, so as we catch the very heavy end of the stem, we stroke all those fibres back. We don't want to lose any goodness out of this CDC feather. And we tie it in. Okay, now if you were to whip finish that and tie it off and put it in your box, the first trout that takes it, that loop wing is going to come undone. No matter what you do, no matter how much varnish you put on it, it's going to do. So what you want to do is lift the butt end before you cut it off. Couple of turns underneath. And then again, back on top, back underneath. Okay? Absolutely crucial, folks. Right? Make sure you do that, because otherwise, the first trout that takes it, or the first couple of casts, that bubble will come undone. And you'll be just left with a cut lump of piece of CDC sticking out the back of your fly and no bubble at all. Okay, whip finish off, secure in well and tighten off. We're not finished just yet. Take away our thread. Now what we got to do here now is I'm going off this piece of waste material that I'm not going to leave there. I'm going to get my scissors in along by the stem and I'm going to slide it up there, and I'm going to free up all those fibres. Using my scissors, as you can see. Okay, do it from the bottom up. Don't go in the top and try cut straight down, because you make it unnatural looking. And once you've cleaned off that stem, slide your scissors in along down to where you're doing your whip finish and take out the stem, and you're left with a nice mess on the top of that fly. Now there's still a little bit of stem there, so I'm going to get rid of that. Free it up. And take it away. Okay, and that is perfect, and that's what you're left with. This is an emerger I use for blue winged olives, but it's also a fantastic emerger, as you can imagine, for fast water. And I tell you one thing, if trout are on the emergers, if they're fishing on that life cycle of the fly, and you put this thing on riffly water, fast water, ain't no trout on the planet is going to refuse it. Absolutely not going to refuse it during blue winged olives. It is, without a doubt, the one fly I put up. I have caught fish on still waters with it as well, where I've seen fish rising right at the tail of a still water, where you're actually standing in the run and you're trying to cast into that tail of the water and the currents pull your line. It really, thanks Chris, it really, you really struggle to fish that piece of water. It's low, it's clear, trout are very fussy, they're, you're coming out of a run and it's nightmare water. The worst water you can possibly imagine. That is the fly that goes up. Okay, it is. They can put whatever name on it you like, but it is not the prettiest thing. Let's take a look at it sitting in the water, folks, before we go. I'll get the cursor across here somewhere and go down and find this one. Let's get a look at the way this one goes, and there you go. Okay, see that now? I put in the picture I made earlier on. I tied it a little bit too much olive in the picture. Okay, as you can see on the right. But you can see how that thing sits down in the water. The thorax is below the water here in this one. Unlike the other ones, the thorax is pushing down. It's not the same on this one. Okay, and you can see the above picture on the right, sitting above the water column. You got that big white lump of CDC, highly visible, an absolute. But look at the body on it. Like, I don't know if I'm looking this on a 30-inch screen here now at the moment, and I can see that body, and it just screams natural to me. It's just like it's perfection. The big long tail sticking out the back, hanging down there. Trout are just cannot help themselves but to take that thing. Thanks, Kenneth. It's really fishy fly, flows. So emergers, you can tie all the, you can be fancy about them. But for me, it's always those kind of scruffy looking flies. But they're tied with purpose. It's not just because I'm lashing on materials and I'm just putting them in there. They don't work. They're there for a reason, and it's always very important when you're tying flies, for anybody that's starting off or going forward, you have a real good understanding. Thanks, Anthony. Thanks, Kevin. Thanks, Kenneth. Thanks, Mike. But, it's always a real good, very important thing to, have a real good understanding of your materials you're using, the purpose of materials, why we tie them in, the way we tie them in. And even though they don't look the prettiest flies in the world, it doesn't mean they're not going to be effective. Okay, so tie effective flies. You're far better off tying effective flies than you are tying pretty flies. You're going to catch more fish that way, and that's what they're there for at the end of the day. So there we have it, folks. We're finished for another Saturday night. I hope everybody's had a great night. I hope everybody has a great weekend. Stay safe out there, folks. The roads are a bit slippy. Lots of ice and snow coming in for the next week or two. We will be back here live next Saturday night at 8:30 p.m. Do not forget, if you haven't entered our draw, we got 2 massive hampers giveaway for free. Go head over to our Facebook pages, like and share. We do appreciate your support so much here in Pescari Fly. Without you, we wouldn't exist. So you have no idea how much it means to us. We have our Christmas show coming up in 2 weeks' time. I will announce the dates for that during the week, and more massive giveaways, and let you know how you're going to win those vouchers for Mount Juliet. But for now, folks, have a great night. Enjoy the rest of your weekend, and I'll see you all next Saturday night. Take care, everyone. Good night.